Hello, I'm Huda Hjaze, and today we're going to talk about the gender discrimination identity. We are going to talk about 5 points. The first is the definition of the gender identity, the types of the gender discrimination, the gender inequality, the gender as a social construct, and the gender discourse. First of all, we are going to explain the definition of the gender identity. The gender identity is the personal sense of one's gender, and also we can say that the gender identity can correlate with the personal assigned sex. Then we are going to explain the types of the gender discrimination. A lot of researches in the critical discourse analysis are related to this issue. It seeks to identify in some way how the discourse supports or creates the gender discrimination, and it falls into 4 types. The first of all is the way language itself is gendered. For example, how a male pronoun, such as the pronoun he, can be used to refer to either males or males and females, but not a female alone. The second type is the way women and men, boys and girls are stereotypically represented in discourse. The third type is the way men and women interact in discourse and whether or not there are differences in their style of talk. And the last type is the way language is used by males and females in specific discourse events. Now we are going to talk about the gender inequality. Gender identity is important because in most places in the world there is still considerable gender discrimination in terms of the educational opportunity, the job equality, the home ownership, the job distribution, and other things. In most cases, it's the men who benefit from this status. And now this can be illustrated, for example, in the percentage of the women in the government. For example, in the UK, the women made up less than 1 in 5 members of the parliament, and this can be represented in the 80%. And in the USA, only 40% of the Congress were women. Otherwise, in less privileged countries, like for example Costa Rica, Mozambique, the number of women in the political power is higher. Now we are going to the gender as a social construct. Now, if we think of gender in terms of sexual differentiations, as most people do, gender is not only a social construct but also a biological one. So, from this point of view, we could say that whereas we have our national or racial identities um, upon us, we are born with our sexuality. So it may be possible, for example, to resist, to refuse, reject our national or racial identities, but not our masculine or feminist status. And this is resigned at birth, and it remains with one for the life, for the entry life. Although gender may be with us from the birth, but the institution still play a part in establishing the nature of the gender identity, even if we don't establish the identity itself. And finally, we are going to talk about the gender discourse. Now, discourses of gender are significant in visual as well as the verbal media. For example, um, we know, for example, that the boys' clothes are blue, black, green, or white with combination of colors, often with decoration of colorful symbols, for example, for the football teams and things like that. And otherwise, the girls' clothes are, for example, pink, purple, red, and the boys and girls' toy are also marked strictly for gender as many television programs, advertisement, computer games, and books. So several studies of gender discourse have demonstrated the social pressure on children to conform to masculine or feminine traditional rules. There has been some debate about how far authors in the school books should seek to present a more symmetrical view of male and female rules. Now, reading schemes that had been criticized for sexism in the representation of males and females were replaced in many books by the Oxford Reading Tree. Now, a close analysis showed that although the more obvious stereotyping of masculinity and femininity in traditional rules is avoided, alternative gender differences are constructed that are not advantageous to either boys or girls as model. There are an equal number um, there are an equal number of male and female characters in the story, but the males are dominant in terms, for example, of overall numerical appearance, as well as playing a significant large number of agent roles. Now, some analysis comments. Males are dominant in terms of overall numerical representation, yet an analysis of the interaction between gender and narrative suggests that this representation is not entirely advantageous. Males are portrayed as incompetent, dependent, and as a butt of jokes. One may wonder which gender of readers is more frustrated here: females because of either invisibility or males because of their unattractiveness. And thank you. Hope you like the presentation, Dr. Akram, and thank you a lot.